Okay. Hey, Dominic, can you guys hear me now on YouTube and Facebook and all that kind of stuff? I don't know if that's going to work. I might have to just record this somewhere and post it up there a little bit later. So we'll see how that works out. Okay. One of the things I was looking for since the market kind of pulled back this morning, and then what was the news event that we had? Some economic data that came out, and that kind of gave a little whoosh to the market to that downside. I was like, ooh, okay, let's see, is this going to be too rough or anything? And so I was looking around, and one of the things I like to do is look at FNGS or FNGU because that's the Fang stock ETF. And even though Google was down a lot, you can look at FNGU, and it didn't budge. It was actually looking really pretty good. And so we look at this thing, and I was like, this is doing everything I want it to do. And you can see it right here, right there. Look at that. Not much of a move today, despite what the S&P did. And you look at this, and we're trying to get past the hourly 50, and really that daily chart looks pretty good too. So until this thing changes course and breaks down and does something else, I'm gonna stick with this being bullish because again, it's doing what I want it to do. We could also look at the Nasdaq, this daily chart and the 15. I mean, look at this. This is doing great. This daily chart looks great. Look at the hourly. This morning we came down and we tested the hourly 50, which SMR did too. So the nuclear names are running this morning. So we're in that. Pretty happy about that. And then look at so those of you in the Moxie room, I could almost call this a 5250 maneuver, but really it's a first move, second move. And you can see right here how the Nasdaq perfectly pulled back into the 15-minute 50. And the Moxie indicators above zero. We got a squeeze. We even have the Moxie power dots, and it pulled back and came right into the 15-minute 50. Oh, great, Dominic, good. You guys can hear me. So fortunately that worked out. I'm not going to have to do any like post stuff. Oops, oh man, I'm all over the place today. Okay, why is this? Man. All right, there we go. Okay, let me get my stuff back up here. I'm pushing buttons. Okay, so yeah, NASDAQ is looking great. That's exactly what we want. I think that the market's going to go higher from here. That's my idea. That's my plan. That's my thought based on what I'm seeing. I also think that if we zoom out and we consider what happened over the last 2 weeks, we had the DeepSeek news, big drop down in the market. That was actually, we were looking for a pullback. It kind of happened all in 1 day instead of 3 days and happened on a news thing like that. And then it recovered, which is good. And then we got the Trump tariff news. It dropped. And we don't know if it would have been worse if they didn't back off. Like, remember, they got a 30-day delay for the tariffs. And so we don't know what kind of world this would be if there wasn't a delay, but we got the delay. So what I'm looking at is price got bought back up. And you can see that even for the NASDAQ, it was a double bottom. And you call these are basically liquidation breaks. So liquidation break, and both of them got bought back up. That looks pretty strong to me. And this is why we're getting a little bit aggressive on our SPX play to the upside and what I think that the market will be doing. So I have a feeling that we're going to be, here, let me come over to the SPX. I'm targeting 6,100. So I just think that makes sense. You can also look at the SPX and look at this trend line and how it perfectly came down and tested the trend line twice. So yeah, I think this is looking great. Those of you in the Moxie room, we've talked about this yesterday when I was on the mic, and then we made a few posts. Look at that. That is, as long as that continues to hold and to work out to the upside, that is a 250 maneuver on the 15-minute time frame. That's perfect. And what that'll do on the hourly chart is that will make an elf shoe. And then the other thing is, if this continues to move up, it got really close, but notice that if we can get the Moxie indicator to go green either today or tomorrow and stay above zero, and if we get price to get back on top of the hourly 50, that's going to be a trampoline move. So the trampoline move is a bullish thing. It's basically a buy the dip situation. And for those of you who don't know anything about the Moxie indicator or whatnot, it's like trying to take a beach ball and you push it underwater. And what it is that buoyancy is the Moxie indicator above zero, because that is positive momentum. Momentum still wants to be up and go long, and yet price is pulling back. It's like that shouldn't be happening. And so when you let go of the beach ball underneath the water, it wants to shoot back up, and that's what we get as a trampoline move when these things happen. So yeah, I think that's what's going to be happening here. If you look at the IWM, that is what we are getting. So a couple things to note here. Number one, yes, we've had troubles getting past the daily 50. So that is something we're going to be looking at for confirmation to the upside. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. If the market keeps working out, we should get price to break over the daily 50. Also notice that for the last 2 days, and even today, the IWM is doing great. So this was another kind of component that I was looking at this morning when the S&P was going down for the first, hour of the morning. The IWM was already up. It was gapping up straight up. And so, not that the small caps are going to lead, but it is a good indication that it was kind of like risk on, and that maybe the mega caps were kind of having to digest the Google news, and I think Apple was down and stuff like that. But then I'll get to NVIDIA and SMH2 in a second. So, and look here, despite the move down that we had on Monday, the 8 is still over the 21. Technically, that's still bullish because the fast moving average is over the slow moving average. And then the other thing here, just like I showed you guys on the S&P about the trampoline move, notice how price is below the hourly 50. Notice how the Moxie indicator is above zero. Now, we technically had 2 trampoline moves on this, which it's okay. Sometimes it takes time for prices to kind of hammer themselves out and figure this stuff out. And again, we had news and all that kind of stuff. But it is amazing that, again, assuming this all works out to the upside, look how far down price went. And notice how the Moxie indicator is still above zero. So as long as this continues to work out to the upside, that is going to be a trampoline move. And in my book, this is official at this point because we do have price back over the hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator is green. That's a go signal for me. And yes, it did happen back here. But again, you never quite know what's going to happen. News came out and it's okay. We do have a second one now. Okay. So things kind of came back. You could also see here that we had a lower low on the 15-minute Moxie indicator. Notice that we had a double bottom with the Moxie indicator. So that was also some positive divergence. So then the other thing I was looking at was NVIDIA. And, I've made a couple videos and everything else coming out since DeepSeek. I said, you really need to be careful with NVIDIA. I don't think that this is bullish anymore. I would not be trying to trade NVIDIA swing long. Maybe you can day trade it or short-term trade it or something like that. But as far as NVIDIA being an uptrend, no, that for me, that's over. Until something changes, I am no way interested in NVIDIA. However, it doesn't mean that it goes straight down all the time. And what I was noticing is on the 15-minute time frame, notice how price is down, notice how the Moxie indicator is up. And I was looking at this on the daily and the hourly, and you see how this was such a big move down that we actually started to pull away from the moving averages on the daily chart. And those of you in the Moxie room, you guys know this. This is how I kind of talk about things is, when you get too far away from moving averages, they do like to snap back. And I think we're starting to see that. And one way you could see this was going into yesterday. Look at here how price was over the 15-minute 50, and look how the Moxie indicator was nice and tight, and it was over zero. So as long as this works and follows through, that is a signal. And though you can see now, look at prices over the hourly 50. So I saw that this morning, even in the overnight, because if you come over here and look at the overnight, look at that. It was already doing well in the overnight. So this is why I like to check the overnight, just to kind of see what's happening and get a feel for what's going on, so that we're not totally surprised when the market opens. So I already saw that was looking pretty good, and I knew price had been sitting on that 15-minute 50, and you could see that NVIDIA was gapping up today. Now again, I don't think NVIDIA is going to be bullish anymore, but it is still a huge component of the market and of the indices. And so the fact that it was up kind of told me, I was like, probably this market's not going to go down. And if we look at SMH, you can see here, and what's the deal with SMH? Well, Look at that double bottom. And so, I was like, again, and you can see here on the 15-minute time frame and the 15-minute Moxie, I was like, I think Nvidia, I think SMH is ready to go up, or at least bounce up. This doesn't mean that we're gonna trade this swing long. It's just that I'm trying to look for information and data and anything to confirm my bias on the SPX and the overall market. And when we have other components like this that have maybe been dragging the market down a little bit, and if I see them starting to recover to the upside, that is going to give me more conviction that the S&P is going to go up. And so all of that worked out nicely. We got the IWM up, SMH up, the NVIDIA was up. We looked at the FANG stock ETF. It was holding pretty well. And so when we saw that the SPX, and I'll show you guys this on the daily or down here on the lower time frame, it was just a smidge early this morning. I got in, I added to the position right there, but then that news, the economic news event came out, and it kind of crunched it down here. It's like, ooh, oh man, I wish I had waited just a second to get into this. But yeah, again, you never know. And so waited a little bit longer, and then now you can see there's the Moxie price trigger on the 2-minute, and you can see here how price held the 15-minute 50 pretty well. And then was it Michael? Yeah, Michael Willis. So you were kind of being like, "Hey, it looks like the market's bullish," and you're like, "Oops, I think I." And so, Michael, I want to show you the other thing, like, because you and I were talking this morning on the chat, and I said, things we don't always want things to just go straight up, because then they outrun their support, and then it's going to be a problem. And the slower the better sometimes, and you want these things to build support and test things and confirm. And if you look at, we had a nice little pop right there, and then it pulled back, and you're like, oh man, what is going on here? Why is this doing this? Well, check this out, Moxie Group. I want you to pay attention to this. Check out the 50, 200, 50 maneuver with the Moxie indicator above zero on the 2-minute. So again, that worked out beautifully, absolutely perfect. They don't always work out, but when they do, they look really good. And that was solid. And you can see clearly there's a big move to the upside, big push after that. And that all is coming from the 15-minute to the 15-minute 50. So yeah, Michael, that was, I also thought that was a good idea buying. I'll show you guys this. Here are the options that we've been trading. So if we look at, we traded the 6100. This is where we bought it yesterday. And I said, be prepared that this thing might come down. And when you get short dated options like this, they really get fried when the market doesn't just keep going up. So I think we lost about 50% of value on that. That's okay. I was prepared. I said, leave some dry powder. And you can see here, this is about where I said, okay, let's get a little bit more. Obviously, we could have done a little bit better when that news came out and the market kind of pushed down a little bit. But you can see that we then recovered in through here, and now we're higher. So we now have a piece here and a piece here. I think this is looking good. And then since we did a call debit spread yesterday, we got since it snowed yesterday, Seattle just doesn't know how to handle snow very well. They closed the schools and everything. We actually have, looks like some snow plow coming out to plow our area. So that's good. Our little neighborhood down here is at the bottom of a very steep hill. And so sometimes it can be challenging to get out of the neighborhood. But yeah, if you look this, and we did a call debit spread yesterday to help limit the cost and limit the cost basically. And since today plunked down, look at our sold strike, the 6150. That we got about 75% gain out of that. And it's not much as far as cost, but percentage wise, we were able to buy it back for a 75% gain. And that did two things. One, we got money back. And two, if this trade idea that I've put on, and if the market continues to work out, which it looks like it is, if that happens, then we have unlocked any restriction from our long call. So now if the market goes up to 6,100, if it goes to 6,200, if it goes up to anything, we now have unlimited upside potential on this, because now we're not getting limited by the sold call that we had. And as I said, I think this is working well. Again, as long as the market continues to do what I wanted to do, this looks like it's going to be a very, very nice trade for us. Um, as long as you just didn't put all of your eggs in one basket yesterday and you were prepared for this kind of scenario. And so we were able to average down and bought a little bit more. We unlocked the upside, got some money back from that one. And so I think that this is working out pretty well, especially for someone over here, Mr. Moxie, that never really trades options. I think I'm getting a pretty good hang of it for how to do this stuff, and I think that the S&P has been a pretty good playground for me as far as getting all this stuff figured out. So, oh, Emil, are you guys still able to hear me? Hopefully that's fine. All right, let me take a look at what you guys. Yeah, nice. Hank B, today was for a change was fortunate. You were a bit slow placing orders. Nice. You bought the 6100 for $4.50. Man, you probably got the low tick on that one. So great job on you. Yeah, ARM has earnings coming up, and I think ARM is looking good. I've said that in the past. Yeah, it's looking good. It even gave you another dip opportunity based on the whole DeepSeek stuff. Like right there, it was almost a trampoline move, but basically it pulled back into the daily 21. As I said, I think it looks good. It has been flagging for a very long time, so I would generally be bullish on it. Of course, anything can happen on earnings. It can go straight up, it can go down. We don't know, but if I did not know that there were earnings tomorrow or whenever it is, I would say this is a great looking chart. But unfortunately, so was Google. Google looked great going into earnings and then they smashed it. So maybe this was a little bit of a buy the rumor, sell the news situation. Yeah, either way, I pocketed some money on this, but I think I'm pretty much a wash because whatever options I bought here that I then sold yesterday just to take a little bit of risk off, I'm now down basically 90% on the rest of them. So it's coming out to be a wash. Basically me giving back the entire trade. So that's kind of no fun, but that's earnings for you. And this is sometimes why I don't like to trade earnings. So I know a lot of you guys were looking at Google and stuff like that. And man, that is just what happens sometimes for earnings. So, yeah. Overall, I'm sure Google will come back. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. It's just basically come right back down to its previous all-time high. It's still in support, and I would imagine, give it enough time, it will come back. And so based on how you guys set up your trades or whatever, I still think it's fine. It's right at the daily 50. Maybe that's going to end up being a buyable area, and I think it's going to be totally fine. All right, let's see. And Andrew, so SPY comparing December to now, do we not have a major divergence on the Moxie? Thanks for finding the exceptions that are getting us through this. Yeah, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. Because if we look at the SPX, SPY, SPX, whatever, what you're looking at is this, right? Is why is price over the daily 50 and why is the Moxie indicator below zero? Isn't that an inverse trampoline move? Yes, it is. If it confirms, okay. And what I mean by that is we are going to see it form on the hourly chart. If the hourly chart cannot get up and keeps getting rejected by the hourly 50 and starts to roll over and come down and actually does move to the downside, and then we start to lose it on the daily, then yes, the Moxie indicator will go red and will continue to be red. And that will be an inverse trampoline move. This will have been a double top and we're going down. Yes. But because the S&P is so big and so slow, remember the Moxie indicator is a momentum-based indicator. And so it takes time for that momentum on this particular time frame to kind of change or catch up. And you could see here where we had a big major pullback that was so long that the momentum really got sucked out of it on the daily chart that it had to really dig itself out of a hole in order to go back up again. But you can see that this was not an inverse trampoline move. It kept going. And you can see a little bit here. You can see here that, let me kind of zoom in for you on this. And you can see in this area that price was over the 50. The Moxie indicator was still lagging a little bit. A lot of times, and maybe take a note on this, a lot of times when you see an inverse trampoline move like this on a time frame, it can mean don't go long right now, and or the way to fix it is to come back and test support. So let me just kind of summarize that one, that if price moves up over the 50 and the Moxie indicator is lagging like this, if it's still going to be bullish, look for price to come back and test support in order to then pull everything up. And you can see right there is where price came down and tested support. Yeah, the Moxie indicator flipped red for a second, but then you can see it came right back up. And then you can see the same thing here. Here's price over the 50. Notice how the Moxie indicator is below zero. Again, still an inverse trampoline movement. It's like, okay, don't buy it right now based on this time frame. But look what it did. It pulled back, tested support, and then it worked itself back up. And I think that's what we're dealing with right now, is that over the last 2 weeks, we did get price over the 50. The Moxie indicator was below zero because we went through a 7-week pullback over the course of December. And so I was prepared that we should be expecting a pullback. Like I even put out a video 2 weeks ago to everybody on YouTube and whatnot and said, you should definitely expect a pullback. This thing came up right to the previous all-time high. It is so far away from its moving averages. We need to expect a flag or a pullback in through here. And also the Moxie indicator is below zero. And lo and behold, we got it for the DeepSeek news. Then we got it for the Trump tariff news. And and those are now prices testing support. And as long as that support holds, then the Moxie indicator should start to make its way back up. Okay. I think another good example is XLP. If we look at this, this is what you don't want to see. And this is also, I put this out, I think last week and maybe even 2 weeks ago on YouTube on my weekly market review, market update. And I pointed this out and I said, this is what we don't want to see. So this was, in fact, an inverse trampoline move, and it did not work out to the upside. And my point here is you can see here on the hourly chart, see how it did not work on the hourly chart. See how price continued to get rejected by the 50. See how the Moxie indicator just kept going red and then finally crossed over zero. And then you can see that it never pulled back to test support. It just failed support. And this was, in fact, an inverse trampoline move. So this is an example of one that did not work out to the upside. And then we have the S&P that has multiple examples of how it did work out to the upside. And so that's how we study the differences between those and how we can watch to figure out if it's going to work out one way or the other. Dominic, I just covered Google. Basically, it's down on earnings. Maybe it was a buy the rumor, sell the news situation. It did pull back to the daily 50. The trade I had on it basically didn't work, but I do think eventually Google will probably recover, and I'm sure it'll go up again at some point. So. All right, I'm going to leave you guys there. Any of you out there on social medias, YouTube, Facebook, X, all that kind of stuff, just remember, we're always running a $7 trial for 30 days. If you guys will come into the Moxie room, obviously we're having a great time in here. I think that the S&P X is going to be looking pretty good. I'm watching the options on the side of my screen. They look good. We are starting to get past the hourly 50. I think this is going to be a very solid trade. And yeah, I think that this market is going to continue to be good, strong, and bullish. It survived last Monday and the Monday before and held up remarkably well and retested these breakout trend lines. So I think it's great. So come on over to the Moxie room, guys. We're having a good time. There's lots of people in here. Yeah, Vijay, lots of fun in the group. And Emil, you're back from vacation. Kind of funny. You're like, oh my gosh, there's so much I need to catch up on. Yeah, SP, we got you over from the Essentials room. Now you're in the Moxie room. And then Eric, appreciate you kind of writing on the, what is that? The Trust Pilot, that kind of review page. So thanks for the love, guys. Appreciate it. And yeah, I got big plans for Friday. Hopefully this market goes to 6,100 by Friday. That would be fantastic, but we're seeing good stuff. So yeah. Let's go. Everything's working out the way I want it to. And for the Moxie room, I will be back on the mic with you guys in just a couple hours. And I can really dive in a little bit deeper to this kind of stuff there and answer more questions.